So if you give him time to throw the football, he's going to put the football where it needs to be. Do we know if Jalen Hurts can do that?
Well, I mean, it's something that he struggled with in the past, right? Was playing against zone defenses. So we'll see now. Everybody's talked about his comfortability and, second year in the offense, same offense. His offseason work to get better at throwing the football. So we'll find out. This will be a good test for him to do that.
You got your Mega Mac guys here with you on Birds 365. Joining us now, you can call him Special Ed, or you can call him Special K.
Ed. That's a show.
Or you can call him what we do on a day like this, Game Day Kracz. Ed Kracz joins us here on Birds 365. You ready for some football, Mr. Kracz? You look like you're just rising and shining.
Well, I am just rising and shining, trying to get some rest before, tonight's marathon at, into the wee hours of the morning, these Monday night games. And I was up watching a lot of football yesterday. So, I had my share of football. I do not like Monday night games. You have to sit around all day and wait, and you're the last game on the docket. I know there's 2 games tonight, right?
Yeah.
1 to 7.
Yeah. You think they could have staggered them, Ed? East Coast, West Coast. You think they could have given us the earlier game?
Yeah.
The NFL is, ugh.
Well, I think this game is probably the most appealing on the docket, in my opinion, this Vikings-Eagles matchup. There's some good games yesterday, obviously. But, well, some games that came down to the very end.
Rush, baby.
That Cardinals-Raiders game was pretty good, and Jets and the Browns. You're Jets, Jody.
The Jets got it handed to
Joe
them.
Blacko, baby.
Three letters, T-U-A. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, Tua had an unbelievable game. I mean, it was a good slate of games. I mean, good outcomes anyway, exciting finishes. But this Eagles matchup, I think these are 2 of the best. This Eagles Vikings, I think it's two of the best teams. I think in the top 6 teams maybe in the NFC. I think Eagles and Vikings. At least as we sit here and on middle of September. So it'll be a good matchup. It's just going to be a late matchup, and that's not like Monday night games.
It's not a reporter alive that likes Monday night football.
Yeah, and even fans, I think it's a late night for fans. They have to get up and work in theory in the morning.
Well, they like getting ready for the game, but then you actually have to play the game, and it doesn't finish till late. You got to get up the next morning and go, why the hell was I so excited at 5 o'clock when I was sitting in the parking lot with a beer in my hand?
5 o'clock. Try 10 o'clock this morning. I think there's some people.
Yeah, I was on Twitter. There were a bunch of people. Yeah, there were a bunch of people already barbecuing, getting ready. So everybody's going to be liquored up. That's the environment the Vikings are coming into. Detroit, the Detroit Lions, all of a sudden, hey, that win that everybody described as a loss, looking a little bit better. The Detroit Lions might be more explosive than we think. Does that make you feel better about the Eagles' Week 1 performance, Ed Kracz?
I didn't feel terrible about it as it was. I mean, the Eagles just kind of ran out of gas. The Lions put together some long drives in the second half. Fatigue was a factor. And, I've told people that was probably the second loudest environment I've ever been in outside that NFC Championship game when the Eagles and Vikings played here in 2017 season. I mean, that was so loud, and that ceiling's low. And I talked to some guys in the locker room this week about that environment, and they said it was just really stuffy in there. They couldn't feel a lot of air movement. It was really loud for them as well, and it was a grind. So I felt pretty good about it. And then they come out and smack the Commanders yesterday, and Aiden Hutchinson goes off with 3 sacks. Charles Harris, or is that his name? Charles, the other guy.
Yeah.
He comes out, he gets a sack. I mean, they sacked Wentz several times. So when you look at the Eagles' offensive line and Jalen Hurts, of course, the way he was able to make guys miss with his legs back there, and Jason Kelce said it, we don't win that game without Jalen Hurts. And when you look at what he did against the Lions by avoiding some of that pressure, and then when you have Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson blocking on the outside against those 2 pass rushers, I mean they they held up really well. So yeah, I think you look at that win now, and it's probably a little bit better in some people's eyes, but I thought it was a pretty good win, regardless of what happened with the Commanders and the Lions yesterday.
All right, Ed, you just proclaimed that the Eagles ran out of gas in the second half, which, oh, by the way, I agree with you. I think they look like the more tired team in the second half of that Lions game. I have my own personal belief as to why they're tired. Maybe they didn't do enough work leading up to the first game of the season. They get enough work in this week, so fatigue won't be a factor in the second half of tonight's game against the Vikings.
Listen, I don't think you get in football shape without doing football things. And, I'm sure you're thinking the same as mine, that they didn't do enough football things in training camp and in summer. I mean, you can run all the gassers and 100-yard sprints you want, but unless you're actually blocking and tackling and pushing and pulling and running, and I mean, you're not going to get into football shape without doing that stuff. And they just didn't do enough of it. And they probably didn't do enough of it this week. So, yeah, I think there could be an element of some fatigue. Now, listen, to prevent that, it should be a cooler night, I guess. I mean, it's supposed to be pretty hot during the day, but it's a nighttime game.
Yeah, you got a good point. It'll be over by 2 in-the-morning, so it'll at least be somewhat cool.
A little chilled off, yes.
Yeah, so I think the environment should be better. With the weather, it certainly wasn't the case in Detroit. I think they probably had that air conditioner turned off or set at about 80 degrees before it kicked on, and that's going back to the Red Auerbach days and the Boston Celtics when they used to have the visitors' locker rooms with cold water and no towels and all that other stuff to gain the edge. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Lions did the same thing in that game. But yeah, the Eagles, I don't think they'll be in any better shape, but I think if they can prevent long drives, I think the long drives that Detroit went on kind of wore them down a little bit. They were on the field a lot. They couldn't get off the field on third down. They allowed 7 of 8 conversions in the second half down.
Yeah.
So, they were tired, but they can control that by doing a better job on third down and getting off the field. And then I think with the weather, probably going to be cooler in the wee hours. That should help them too.
I have an esoteric question for you, Ed. I think the Eagles are going to win this game. I think they're going to win this game because they're the best running team in the NFL, and the Vikings don't handle the run game well defensively. I think you're going to see 200 plus on the ground again. And I think you're going to see a bunch of unhappy people. Are we all turning into Jeffrey Lurie, asking questions about how you win the game after you win the game?
I think fans are all on board with running the ball, right? I mean, at least they were, they're always calling for Nick Sirianni or whoever was the coach to run the ball more. Now you're getting that. And, now people might be unhappy with it because they want to throw the ball. So yeah, you can't make everybody happy, but it's a pretty bold prediction there, John, with over 200 yards rushing. I mean, because
they always get over 200 yards. It's not that bold anymore.
Well, I mean, Jalen Hurts gets a lot of it. And
that's my point. Jalen's going to get 70 to 100 of it. So all you need is 100 to 130 from the backs. And Jalen's presence makes things easier for the backs. 200 yards is like, it's like it used to be this big thing. And now you're like, the Eagles got 200 yards on the ground. That makes sense.
But the Vikings, they play a lot of zone. So they're not going to, those defenders aren't going to be, running with their backs to Hurts and allowing him to pick up those.
That's what I said.
They're going to be kind of
Jody that. Now the Lions did that. So you have a point. The Lions blitzed, I think, the second most in week 1. And they played, I believe, the most man coverage in the NFL in week 1, which was still under 50%, but it's as high as he gets. So that's probably will make it a little bit more difficult for Jalen.
Yep.
But I don't think the presence, his ability to open up lanes for Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott, I don't think that changes. I think people are so freaked out about Jalen's ability to run the football. It makes it easier for everybody else. And then on the other side, the Vikings just don't stop the run. So why are they going to stop it against the best running team? That would be my thought process.
Yeah, well, I would take the under on 200 yards rushing just because I don't think Hurts is going to have that 70-yard to a 90-yard game. But if they get over 200, I think Sanders has to go over 100. I think he's got to get 100 to 120 of those yards himself. And, can he do that? He had a very good season debut. But, can he run for over 100? We'll see. They do have a defense that can be run on, but I think you have to do it with Sanders, Gainwell, and Scott. And I'm not sure Hurts is going to be that successful or as successful running the ball as he was against the Lions, just based on that zone defense, being able to watch him whenever he's in the pocket.
All right, Ed, the Eagles gave up 35 points week 1 against the Lions, and the defensive effort was just not good. One of the guys who, when the game's over and done with, you look and go, wait, did he even play? Was Hassan Reddick, the defensive end that they paid good money to come in here and put pressure on the quarterback. He made one play in the game, and it was on a running play, a tackle for loss on the running play. Other than that, he was almost non-existent. Shame on him. Shame on Jonathan Gannon and his scheme. Give a little credit to the Lions. Johnny Mack told us leading up all week, don't look past this Lions offensive line. They're one of the better ones in the NFL. And I think they proved that to us last week. Well, the Vikings have good tackles as well. How is Hassan Reddick going to be different this week than he was last week?
Well, listen, you could say that about a few guys that were invisible, right? It wasn't just Hassan Reddick. Fletcher Cox really didn't do much. Brandon Graham didn't do a lot. But, yeah, Reddick was the guy they brought in here to be, to increase their sack total. 23 and a half of those the last 2 years, top 5 in the league over that span. But, I had a chance to talk to Reddick in the locker room this week for, a good 7-8 minutes. And, he kind of, and I wrote about it, but he kind of alluded to the fact that he was pretty hyped up to play his first game in an Eagles uniform. The team that he grew up right across the river from in Camden watching play. He said he had a hard time settling down in that game. And maybe that was part of it. He didn't want to make an excuse. He's not coming out and saying that, he wouldn't admit to that, but that's kind of what he alluded to, that he was pretty fired up and hyped up and maybe too hyped up and too pumped up and maybe tried to do a little bit too much and ended up doing nothing. Now the question is going to be, can he contain those emotions on a Monday night football game in his first home game in an Eagles uniform in front of fans and such? And I asked him, well, how do you control that? Being in front of the home crowd that, will have some friends and family in it. And he said, I'm not even taking ticket requests. I'm not doing ticket counts, anything like that. I'm going to focus on just the game. I feel more settled down, and he feels like he'll be ready to play. So, maybe that was part of it. But to me, he looked a little slow. Maybe he was a little out of shape because of the summer of really not, doing a whole lot. But to me, that's kind of how he looked. He looked a little tired, a little slow. And maybe that's because he was thinking a little too much or whatever. But I expect a better game from him. And let's face it, this Eagles pass rush, this to me is the key to the game, is they have to be able to put pressure on Kirk Cousins, because you don't want him to sit back there. And that's what he's going to do. He's not going to move around a lot, so he's going to be there. But you don't want him to sit back there for 4 or 5 seconds and wait for a receiver to open, because you can't cover Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, maybe not even Irv Smith, the tight end, for 5-6 seconds. You have to impact Cousins' time to throw the ball, and that'll make it easier for Slay and Bradbury and Kaiser White, Marcus Epps. Some of these other guys are going to be in coverage to at least stick to their guys for a half a second less than you're not getting for less time if you're getting a pass rush. And so Reddick really has to come to play, but so does everybody on that defensive line.
Yeah, you're right. You got to speed Kirk Cousins up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's tremendously accurate. If you give him time to set his speed, throw the football, it can get ugly pretty quickly. But I want to, go back to Jalen Hurts and Jalen Hurts throwing the football, because you're right, Ed. I mean, the Vikings play the same scheme as the Eagles. So all Eagles fans who hate the scheme, take a look at the other side as well. They played more zone than the Eagles. I think they were second in the NFL in week 1. They were successful against maybe the best quarterback in football, Aaron Rodgers. And, Detroit, as we mentioned, played more man than anybody else in the NFL. So if they can't run the football as well as they did in Detroit, and Jalen Hurts is forced to throw the football against those zone looks with 7, sometimes 8 people in coverage, can he do it? Can he do it? I mean, that's when interceptions pop up. That's when you got to be accurate. We just talked about, Kirk Cousins is going to be accurate. So if you give him time to throw the football, he's going to put the football where it needs to be. Do we know if Jalen Hurts can do that?
Well, I mean, that's something that he struggled with in the past, right? Was playing against zone defenses. So we'll see now. Everybody's talked about his comfortability and, second year in the offense, same offense. His offseason work to get better at throwing the football. So we'll find out. This will be a good test for him to do that. I really think he needs to get the ball out quickly, and we saw him try to do that in training camp with a lot of the shorter stuff. They worked a lot of short type patterns. They didn't go deep a whole lot. And I don't think the Vikings are going to give you that deep shot very often. So they're going to have to complete some throws on a consistent basis to be able to move the football. And I believe in Jalen Hurts. Let's face it. I do believe, he is a very good quarterback, and I think he will be able to make enough throws to keep this team kind of on pace with whatever the Vikings are going to score. Because I think it's going to be a pretty high scoring game. I think the Vikings are going to put up points, and I think the Eagles are going to have to match that. So Hurts is going to have to come with his A game and be able to do that. And, Devontae Smith, obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get him going after 0 catches last week with some quick throws, some slants, some out patterns. But I'd like to see Hurts test the middle of the field a little bit more too, with Dallas Goedert. Dallas had 3 catches in Detroit. They were all, kind of outside throws, screen throws outside. That has to happen too for Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, he's got to throw consistently against the zone, prove that he can do that. And I'd like to see him throw over the middle a little bit more too.
Will part of that Eagle offense tonight, and it wasn't all that prevalent in week 1, be backs out of the backfield? If the Vikings are going to sit in the zone and prevent them from going over the top, the same way Detroit did last week. Did Quez Watkins play? Oh, no, that's right. He returned kicks, but he didn't play from the line. Oh, he
shouldn't even be doing that, by the way.
Yeah,
but that's another story.
That's another story. Miles out of the backfield, Gainwell out of the backfield. How big a part of the Eagle offense do you think that is tonight, throwing to the backs?
Well, if they get pressure, and I'm surprised the Eagles didn't do that more last week. I mean, they didn't throw to the backs a whole lot. I think Miles Sanders had 1 catch. Maybe Gainwell had a target or 2, but yeah, I don't know. I think the Eagles look at it like, we can pick up more yards with Jalen running the ball than we can throwing it to, Sanders or Gainwell 2 yards on the line of scrimmage. So I'm not sure they'll do that. If they didn't do it last week in Detroit when they were blitzing and bringing everybody to kind of, just throw it out into the flat, they just relied on Jalen to make a play. So I'd be surprised if they do that as much. They like Jalen running the ball more than they do like to throw it to the backs.
I'm going to give you 3 names. I think the answer is obvious, but it could go in a different direction. Jalen Reagor, Chandon Sullivan, Jordan Hicks, ex-Eagles coming back.
Yeah.
If someone haunts them, who's it going to be? Chandon Sullivan's the starting nickelback. Now Jordan Hicks is the big name. Jalen Reagor on the punt return, big revenge game. Who's it going to be, Ed Kracz?
Well, I think the obvious answer is Jordan Hicks, right? Because he's going to be on the field. He was on the field for, 97% of the Vikings snaps in week 1. So, Hicks was a great player here. A very good player in Philadelphia during his time. He got hurt a lot. He was a good guy in the locker room, easy guy to talk to. Always drinking his kombucha tea or whatever that stuff was called.
Kombucha, yeah.
Kombucha.
Good stuff.
Always had a mug full of that in the locker room. But, he had 14 tackles last week, which is, crazy when you think about that. And he had a sack. I think he had a forced fumble maybe.
Forced fumble, yeah.
I mean, he had an impact.
He's always a playmaker. Couldn't stay healthy here. He leaves here, and he's been healthy.
He led the Eagles in interceptions in 2018 with 5 of them. So, he's around the ball. So I would pick Hicks there. But I wouldn't be surprised too if Kevin O'Connell comes in and has a little, small set of plays for Jalen Reagor. I think any coach should give a player who played for the team they're playing an opportunity to do something against them. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has a small batch of plays, maybe throw the screen pass a little bit to him like the Eagles tried, or that jet sweep, and see what he can do with it.
It works so well here.
Well, what if it works in Minnesota? I mean,
Please be right, Ed Kracz. Please tell me they're going to try and force feed Jalen Reagor the ball. That gives the Eagles a better chance to win. Please tell me you got a crystal ball reading on this one, and that's exactly the way it's going to happen.
Yeah, well, I wish I could do that, Jody. I don't think they're going to force feed him the ball. I think they might try to get him the ball, a time or two to see if he can maybe, catch lightning in a bottle with it. And, don't forget he had a 72-yard punt return for a touchdown his rookie year against Green Bay. He also had a lot of muffs and fumbles and stuff. Yeah. So, maybe if you look at Reagor.
Here's why I feel comfortable using the phrase force feed him the ball. You, me, and John McMullen all had the same number of scraps, same number of snaps from the line of scrimmage that Jalen Reagor did last week. 0. They didn't put him out there for one offensive snap.
Remember, Jody,
only thing was special teams.
Yeah. He just got there. So they're going to have the big.
I'm assuming the Vikings practice more than the Eagles this week, but Jalen Reagor completely up to speed this week.
Big package.
Are you projecting or predicting?
No.
20 snaps, 15 snaps,
no.
10 snaps, 5 snaps.
I'm putting
How many of you think he's going to play on offense? We had two Minnesota guys last week tell us that KJ Osborne is the unquestioned number 3, and Jalen Reagor's going to need to get beyond him.
I'm putting the over-under on 5, but here's where Ed could, everybody's paying attention to Justin Jefferson. You might have 3 people bracketing him, and all of a sudden you have Jalen Reagor on the other side. They try to just let him run past the defense, maybe a deep shot. Maybe Kevin O'Connell tries something like that. But, there's not going to be volume. There's not going to be volume for Jalen Reagor. No. But maybe he tries to get him a big play in a return to Philadelphia. He is a player's coach. But, Jordan Hicks is who I was getting at because he was such a good player here. And I think people forget the Super Bowl season, he was the leader of this defense. And he was one of the guys who got hurt towards Achilles, I believe it was that year.
Yep.
And the Eagles were able to persevere that. But he was their best linebacker. And he's been able to stay healthy since he left. And this is his first time coming back to Lincoln Financial Field. So it should be interesting. And he was, I think people forget him a little bit too much. He was a really good player here.
Yeah. And Chandon Sullivan, you mentioned him, but back to Hicks though, I remember he went on his honeymoon. He got married one off season and he fell by the pool. And
got hurt.
I mean, come on, it wasn't even football. It was on his honeymoon, hanging by the pool. He got hurt. Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at that.
We sure that wasn't a fight with a Cabana boy? Or is that another Eagle linebacker?
That was old Nigel.
Nigel took over for Jordan. Yeah, people were concerned about that. Remember, people were concerned about Nigel taking over the green dot. And I believe Jim Schwartz said at the time, a tape recorder could do it.
Hey, but listen, don't diss out Nigel Bradham. I thought he was a huge underrated piece.
Oh yeah, he was a good player.
That guy was tough, man. He was playing with all sorts of. He had an injury in his wrist. He wore a cast. I mean, that guy was
tough. Good guy too, even though he doesn't like
the Cabana boys. Cast as a weapon, I think, kind of like Aaron Donald swinging a helmet.
On the Cabana boy. Is that what he used on the Cabana boy?
Might have been that, as a matter of fact.
You also can't take the firearms to the airport, Nigel. There were a lot of Jim Schwartz great quotes when it came to Nigel Bradham. Yeah. One of them was about that firearm to the airport. If you keep doing stupid stuff, people are going to start thinking you're stupid. That was a great Jim Schwartz quote.
All right, I need a guidance from both you guys here. If you got your Eagle crystal ball out, how much 12 personnel do you think they'll play tonight? Johnny Mack is leaning toward a lot of running of the football again, along the same lines as what they did last week, maybe even more against the Vikings. Does that lend itself to 12 personnel? Last week, you got nothing out of Devontae Smith, nothing out of Quez Watkins. It was the A.J. Brown show. Do they go more 12 personnel this week and basically tell the Vikings, yeah, we're going to run it down your throats. Now try and stop us?
I thought they played a lot of 12 in Detroit. I mean, Jack Stoll was on the field a lot. I think he had, 45 of the offensive snaps. He played a lot of special teams. He was a big underrated part of the, of the team last week, I thought, just in the volume of snaps that he played. But yeah, I think they'll go 12 personnel. I think they like the way Jack Stoll blocks on the edge. They elevated Noah Tungiai last week and sat down Grant Calcaterra. Again, I think it was more for a blocking move. Calcaterra is still learning how to do that. Tungiai probably does it a little bit better. I mean, he even had a target, Tungiai, and he dropped it. So, but I think they'll play 12 personnel, and they don't always necessarily run out of 12 personnel either. So, I think they like that formation, and I do think they'll use it a bit tonight.
Yeah, I think they want to be an 11 personnel team, and obviously, from the time Nick Sirianni got here, that's what they want to do. But I think they're a better 12 personnel team, to be honest. I think they still are. The one issue is, the one guy a little bit banged up this week was Jack Stoll, who was dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury. So maybe that affects things as well. So that could shift things. But I do think Zach Pascal changes things a little bit and then allows them to use more 11 because he can be a blocker, a different type of blocker, but he can do it very well as the third receiver on the field. And that's what Nick Sirianni wants to do. So, I mean, as long as you're winning football games, I don't think that changes until you start to struggle a little bit. Quez Watkins, though, I don't see it. What am I missing with Quez Watkins? I think Zach Pascal's the third best receiver on this team.
John, if you're not careful, he's going to start following you again with all these words about Zach Pascal.
Well, that's Jody's fault. I shouldn't have been blocked, Zach Pascal. That's Jody's fault.
Oh, God, blame me. I had no problems taking the blame for that one.
Yeah, well, I like Zach Pascal a lot, and he does follow me. So, but I think he's a good receiver. I do think he's a good receiver. He had a big catch on a third down throw. He got behind it was a linebacker or slot corner, I can't remember, in Detroit. But yeah, I do like Pascal. Quez is kind of the odd man out right now. He's returning kicks, and Sirianni likes him, I think, as a kick returner.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
I don't either.
No evidence that he could be now he'll go and return one for 95 yards tonight, and Eagles fans can thank me. But I have not seen any evidence that he's a kick returners. You got to go fast and you got to hit that hole immediately. And I see too much dancing around with Quez Watkins.
Goes to the outside right away. But listen, AJ Brown can get slots in the snap or snaps in the slot. They move him into the slot with motion. So, that kind of takes away some of Quez's opportunities. But you mentioned Chandon Sullivan. He's your slot guy. And I think, listen,
that's a big advantage for the Eagles.
That's an advantage Eagles. So, whoever's lined up in the slot tonight could have a decent game, and maybe it will be Quez. Maybe it'll be Pascal. Maybe Brown will motion down into the slot, but
maybe Devontae.
And Devontae, you have to. That's a matchup you have to exploit. And then even Patrick Peterson on the outside. He's not the Patrick Peterson that came into this league, 10 years ago, whenever it was. A little bit slower now, so that's another mismatch that you're going to have to exploit. And maybe that will be Devontae on the outside, and maybe Brown's coming out of the slot, or Quez. But yeah, I mean, listen, Quez caught 40 passes last year, something like that, over 600 yards. Yeah. But listen, the volume, I just don't see that happening this year because they have, and Sirianni will tell you, they have to go to Goddard, Smith, and Brown. Those are the three players that the offense runs through. And that just leaves scraps for guys like Watkins and Pascal.
All right, Eddie K, I need you on the record. The best stat I saw about the Eagles this week, no great surprise, comes from our buddy Ruben Frank, who had this one. Jalen Hurts last week as the Eagles starting quarterback, for the third time in his career, oversaw an Eagle game in which they scored 38 points with 0 touchdown passes. No other quarterback in the history of the National Football League. And this guy's only been the starter for 1 year and 1 game. And a couple of years before with Carson going by the wayside. But no other NFL quarterback ever has been part of a game in which a team scored 38 points and threw no touchdown passes, and Jalen's done it 3 times. Will we see it again, Ed Kracz? Eagles scored 38 points without a touchdown pass.
How many of those games have they won, though? I wonder. Like, I think
all of them.
Oh, really? Didn't he score over 38 against the Chiefs? Maybe not. I thought they had a lot of points against the Chiefs, but maybe not. So he's 3-0. I don't
cares how you score.
I know. I don't think they'll go over 38. I don't.
Not getting 38 tonight.
And I think Jalen Hurts needs to throw some touchdown passes. I mean, you don't want to go through week 2 with 0 touchdown passes on your statistical sheet. So yeah, I think he's going to make some touchdown passes tonight. And I don't think they'll score 38 points, but I think Jalen Hurts will throw, I'm going to say 2 touchdowns tonight.
Who's catching them? Who's getting the 2 touchdown passes?
I think Goddard will get one, and I think Smith gets one.
Oh, we got to get AJ in the end zone.
Yeah, I think AJ's going to have to wait. I mean, he had his 10 catches last week, and I don't think we'll see that again this season where he has 10 catches, but maybe. I think Smith and Goddard are the touchdown makers in the air tonight.
The 2 others that Jalen did it was Detroit last year, so he did it against Detroit twice.
Nice.
And the Saints last year, which, they won all 3 games.
Okay.
So it's just a weird kind of stat. I'm with you. I think he'll probably throw one, even though I don't think the Eagles will get 38 points. So your final score tonight, Ed Kracz, is?
Well, I have, the over-under is 50, right? I have it going over. I have the Vikings winning a very entertaining back-and-forth game. I have the Vikings winning 30-27. I just think that they'll make some plays.
So, blame Ed Kracz. I got the Eagles winning. winning.
All right.
The Eagles haven't won a Week 2 game since 2016. That's a trend that's hard to overlook. Even their Super Bowl season, they lost to Kansas City in Week 2 and then ran off 9 in a row. But I just think that, they lost their home opener last year to the 49ers, and everybody says, it's going to be a great advantage to have that crowd rooting for you. But listen, that crowd goes hot and cold. They can turn on you.
They can turn quick. They can turn quick.
Yeah. So
especially with Jonathan Gannon, they do not like him.
Yeah. I've been to too many games down at the Link where they get booed off the field at halftime. So they have to keep that crowd in their corner. And the crowd, I will say, is a big help for the defense. I think they need to make it rough for Kirk Cousins to communicate whatever the play is, whatever the blocking protections are. And I think the defensive line does feed off of the crowd noise. So it can be a benefit for the defense. But I just think this Vikings offense right now is kind of rolling. They're coming in with confidence, having beaten the Packers, and it's going to be a tough out for the Eagles to win this game.
I foresee the crowd only turning on Ed Kracz when the Eagles find a way to win.
Hopefully you get in the building, Ed, before.
I'll be there. I'll be there. Yeah. You can certainly
keep a low profile. Hide behind McMullen on the food line. You'll probably be okay. Yeah. Eddie, good stuff. Always a pleasure, bud. We'll get you back on again next week. Thanks for jumping in with us today.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.